Hey everyone, I'm Trevor and you're watching SoCal Disney Dad, and today we are all going on the bus tour here at the San Diego Zoo. I'm so excited. We haven't been on this tour in quite a long time and it is open again. So let's see what it's like and let's get going. As you come in here, you can't take the strollers on the bus, of course, so you have to park them here. Don't worry, the bus comes right back to a different station over this way, so you won't have to walk too far to get to your stroller when you're back. Looks like they would normally have a photo op here with the green screen, but there's nobody doing it, which probably means that the photo pickup is not functional either. They do have the option for an upper deck or a lower deck, but it looks like absolutely everybody is trying to go for the upper deck. So we're gonna go over here to the lower deck because there's no line over this way. I guess the upper deck is just that popular? Crazy. I'll admit the upper deck is really cool because it's a double-decker bus and everybody wants to be on the top row of a double-decker bus, right? But I think it'll be easier for filming on the bottom row. That's my theory. That's what I'm going off of. So we're gonna come down here, especially because it's faster. Here comes our bus. We got a big purple bus. It says out of service. Never mind. Maybe it's not our bus. Or they're bringing it into service and they're gonna pull the sign out. I'm not really sure. I mean, it looks like it's our bus. There is another yellow bus coming, but it also says out of service, so I think that they just haven't pulled the sign off yet. I just watched this guy change the sign. Now it says tour in progress. You can see the reflection there in the glass. So here's the spot that I've picked. There's some raised seats here, so if you take a look at the ground, there's this little bar right here, and the seats up there and forward are down a little bit lower. So I've picked a seat that is raised up a tiny bit. It's not, of course, going to compensate for the fact that the upper deck is up there, but hopefully, we'll have a slightly more elevated position for the video. And then I'm going to pass the camera over to Amy, who is over there, if there are animals on that side of the bus. And then if there's animals on this side of the bus, of course, I'll be filming from this side. James is sitting here with me, and then Grandma's up here. Are you excited about the bus? James really wants to sit with Grandma, but Daddy doesn't want to get locked in. So I think James is going to move up here if nobody else joins the bus. So James switched. He's happy, sitting with Grandma. All right, tour bus is moving. I'm going to keep the camera on the whole time. If you are watching the vlog video, you're going to get snippets and highlights of the best parts. And if you're watching the full tour, well, you're going to get the lulls along with the exciting parts, but hope you enjoy.
Tour guide for the next 35 or so minutes. So can everybody raise your hand if this is your very first time at the zoo? Okay, on the upper deck. Okay, quite a few of you. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do here at the zoo. So we have a team of experts in wildlife care and conservation. And our goal is to unite that expertise with other organizations and communities in order to find and innovate new solutions to conservation challenges that are happening all around the world today. So we don't just operate here in San Diego. We also have 8 different hubs of action around the world where we focus our global efforts. We are going to be meeting some animal representatives from many of those hubs today. We're heading through the front plaza right now. The flamingos were back over to our right, and if you were to take that pedestrian path ahead of us and a little bit to the left, that is how you could get to the reptile house, and also the brand new Komodo dragon exhibit, which just opened about a month ago, so I definitely recommend checking it out if you get the chance today. But we are going to be heading into the Lost Forest, so let me give you a few quick safety reminders. Just make sure you keep your arms and legs inside the bus at all times. You are free to stand up for a short time if you want to get a better look at something. Just make sure you keep your feet on the floor, not up on top of the seats, and hold on to something if you're going to stand up because the bus will be starting and stopping frequently. Like I said, this is called the Lost Forest. and it's modeled after a Malaysian rainforest. So this is home to many of our rainforest species, including tigers, hippos, and monkeys. And many of the habitats here are modeled after real-life counterparts. That's how we give the animals an experience similar to what they would get in the wild. So whenever we're thinking about the welfare of the animals that live here, we're asking ourselves, what would these animals want and need in the wild, and how can we give that to them here at the zoo? And the first habitat we'll be coming up on is where the tigers live. So let's see if we can find them.
Oh, they're there now. They're up there. The tigers up there.
And if any of you have cats at home, I'm sure you know they sleep a lot and they're very sneaky. Same goes for tigers. So we might not be able to see the tigers right now, but there are 3 of them that live there, and they're all brothers. Their mother was rescued from Malaysia in her native habitat when she was identified as a problem tiger because she was getting too close to villages and scaring the people. So we brought her here, and now she gets to be an ambassador for her species, and she's done a great job of securing the future of Malayan tigers. There's only about 200 of them left in the wild, and she has had 8 cubs during her time at the zoo. Now coming up on the right is where the second most dangerous animal in Africa lives, the hippo. If you're wondering, the most dangerous in Africa is the mosquito. So we do not have a mosquito habitat, so we'll have to settle for the hippos right now. If you see just 1 hippo in the pool, that's the father Otis, and if you see 2, that's the mother and child. And we're keeping them separated for the first couple of years of the child's life, just because the mother can be a little bit overprotective. It might be hard to see the hippos right now with where they are. They're back kind of behind the glass and being blocked a little. But back behind the hippos, in that shaded area with all those trees, that is where the okapis live. And okapis are kind of funny looking animals. They look like half deer, half zebra, but they're actually most closely related to the giraffes. We might actually be able to see the hippos as we slowly roll by. It looks like the mother and her child are in there right now. But as for the okapis, they were actually thought to be a myth for quite a long time by Western scientists because they're so weird looking. But of course the people in Africa who live near the okapis know that they're real. So we now work with those communities in Africa in order to find the best solution to protect the okapis. And some of those people we work with actually used to be part of the illegal bushmeat trade, which is the hunting of those endangered animals for their meat. So we got them out of that situation, and now they are part of our alliance, and they help us support conservation all over the world. And on the right is where the Allen swamp monkeys live. You can see a couple of them hanging out on top of their climbing structure right now. One of them's taking a nap. And in the wild, these monkeys are very skilled fishermen. So they know how to grab a leaf and drop it in the water and then wait for a fish to investigate, and then they'll catch the fish. They actually live with some otters who are down in the water below them, so they can practice those fishing and hunting skills on the otters that they live with. Of course, the otters can defend themselves, so they're not in any danger. But many of the habitats here do have slightly unusual combinations of animals like monkeys and otters, and it is good for them. Even though you wouldn't think that monkeys and otters go together, it is good for them to have that interspecies interaction as a form of enrichment. Now we are going to be making a left turn over to the African marsh. This is where lots of water-loving birds live, including flamingos, pelicans, and cormorants. And the flamingos you'll see here are a different species than the ones back at the front of the zoo. The ones at the front are American flamingos, the most colorful, and these ones are a little bit paler in color. But actually all flamingos are born with gray feathers, and they only get their pink color from their diet, which is mostly algae and crustaceans. And in the wild, they do have the ability to fly, so as big as they are for a bird, they all weigh less than 10 pounds. That's how they're able to fly, be light enough to take off. And that yellow sign we're passing by right now that's shaped like a kangaroo with a number 2 on it, that is kangaroo bus stop number 2. So the kangaroo buses are a hop-on, hop-off bus system we have here. You can wait at any of the 4 kangaroo bus stops. A bus will pick you up within 15 minutes, and then you can hop off at any of the other stops. There are quite a lot of hills to walk up and down here, so definitely take advantage of the kangaroo buses and reduce the amount of walking you have to do today. And now as we head up Polar Hill, you can take a moment to notice all of the plant life we have here. I'm sure you can guess that many of the plants we've seen so far are not native to San Diego, but we are not just a zoo, but also one of the most visited botanical gardens in the world. So we have over 1,000 different species of plants here, and many of them are endangered. Because when it comes to the ecosystems that these animals live in, they are very closely interlinked with plants. So if we care about protecting all of these animals, we also have to care about protecting the plants that they rely on in the wild for food and shelter. And coming up on the right side is the African savanna. So there are some lesser kudu and gazelles in there. The lesser kudu are the ones with white vertical stripes, and then the gazelles have the dark horizontal stripes on their side. And those stripes help them blend in a little bit with the grass in their native habitat. And they have a kind of interesting way of positioning themselves where all of the adults will stay towards the outside of the habitat to watch for predators, with different members all looking in different directions, and then the babies and kids will stay towards the inside where they feel protected. Now we're going to be pulling in on the left to Polar Bear Plunge and seeing if we can find the polar bears.
Oh yeah, it's right there.
Some of you can probably see them right now. They do have a very large pool, so
What's it?
while we're here, you might be wondering how we can keep polar bears happy here in San Diego when it's much warmer than their native habitat. And part of how we do that is that their pool is cooled to about 40 to 50 degrees. So if they ever get too hot, they can just take a dip in their pool. And they also have a much thinner layer of fat on their body compared to their wild counterparts. They don't need all that fat to keep them warm. It's already warm enough here. And the polar bears are also a great opportunity to talk about climate change. So the majority of scientists do agree that climate change is happening right now and negatively affecting pretty much every habitat type around the world. But especially the Arctic, where the polar bears live, is being affected. So as we release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, it's warming up the Earth and causing the Arctic ice to melt. And the polar bears do rely on that ice to roam around and hunt seals and to build dens and have babies. We can keep on moving forward, so make sure you hold on to something. And when it comes to climate change and how the polar bears are being affected, part of the solution to that is going to come from lawmakers and corporations, but there are things that you can do in your daily life to help the polar bears. You can reduce your water usage by taking shorter showers or using drip irrigation systems. Or you can take public transportation or walk or bike instead of driving your car. Passing by some more of the African savanna. And one of my favorites is coming up on the right, the Chicoan peccary. They're the ones that look like little fuzzy pigs. They're technically not pigs, but they are closely related, and they were actually thought to be extinct for quite a long time, until a couple of decades ago when they were rediscovered in Paraguay. It's great that we rediscovered them. They're not extinct, but they are still critically endangered, so there's still a lot of work we have to do with them to ensure that they are around for years to come. of us is where bus stop number 3 is. So if you take the kangaroo buses today, bus stop 3 would be a great one to get off at if you want to go see the polar bears behind us or the elephants and lions up ahead of us. Now in this habitat on the right is where the 2 maned wolves live. They're called maned wolves, but they look a little bit more like fox. You can see both of them walking around right now. And in addition to seeing them, you might also be able to smell them a little bit, because they do mark their territory with a musky odor that they use to let others know that they're there and to attract mates. And they're called maned wolves, but they look like foxes, but they're actually not wolves or foxes. They are their own special type of animal. They're found in the grasslands of Brazil.
Yeah? Yeah!
And now we are about to head over into Elephant Odyssey, which is actually modeled after what California used to look like about 12,000 years ago. So I'm sure you can imagine California was a very different place back then. So all of the animals here in Elephant Odyssey represent different ones that used to live in California a very long time ago. The first ones we can see on the left side are the rock hyraxes. So they look kind of like beavers or gophers or something, but they're actually most closely related, if you can believe it, to the elephant and the manatee. And the way we know that is by looking inside their mouths and paying close attention to the positioning of their teeth and their tusks, even though they don't look like elephants on the outside. And they're also very skilled singers, so the males will put on a song to impress the ladies. And we have 2 different colonies of them here. And if you pay close attention to their songs, you can hear slight differences between their songs between the 2 colonies. So they do form dialects in their songs based on which group they're living with. And coming on the right side, we also have the African lion, or lions. There are 2 of them in there, a male and a female. The female is walking around right now, and then the male is taking a cat nap. And like I mentioned, this is modeled after what California used to look like. So these are African lions, but there did also used to be a species of American lion that would have been found in California. And the male lion is giving us a good example of what lions do. They can spend up to 20 hours a day sleeping. And they are called crepuscular, which means that they are most active during the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And we'll see a few other animals today who are also crepuscular. And the next habitat right here is where the jaguar lives. And unlike lions, jaguars, like he's in that little crack between the rocks right there. Might be hard for some of you to see him. But they did used to live in California a lot more recently than 12,000 years ago. But even more recently, the range has shrunk down into mostly South America and Mexico. But there have been some sightings of them over in Arizona and New Mexico. And now if you start looking into the distance on the right, you might start seeing some elephants. It wouldn't be Elephant Odyssey without a couple elephants. And we do have 5 of them here, so let's see if we can find all of them today. See a couple elephants over in the distance, also a couple of humans, which are another amazing animal we have here. But this is a very large habitat, so we'll keep moving forward and hopefully we'll see some of the other elephants. And since there are humans over in that section of the habitat, that section is closed off to the elephants because we do practice protected contact, which means that the elephants and all the other large animals are never going to come directly into contact with the care specialists without a barrier in between them. That's how we keep the people and the elephants safe. We're coming up on the Elephant Care Center now. So this is where the elephants go every day to get a health checkup. And about once a week they get a pedicure. And this is actually one of the elephants' favorite places to be. Not just because they get pedicures, but also because we use positive reinforcement so that taking care of their health is not something that the elephants have to do, but something they enjoy participating in. On the right side are the two secretary birds. There's also a magpie in there named Rico. You might see him hopping around. One of the secretary birds is in the back corner, and then one of them is sitting right up against the barrier. And secretary birds are one of only two terrestrial birds of prey. So unlike hawks and eagles, they don't fly and swoop down after their prey. They use their long legs to run after their prey and catch it with their sharp beak. You can also see Rico. He's up against the fence with his blue and white wings. He's being social right now. And although secretary birds don't fly after their prey, they do have the ability to fly. So you might see them sometimes up on top of their tree that they have in their habitat. Now I can start looking out for any more elephants. There's one of them on the other side of this big rock wall. And keep in mind, there are two different species of elephant here. There's the Asian and the African elephant. The main way to tell them apart is by their ears. So this is an African elephant we're looking at. He has pretty big ears, whereas the Asian ones have slightly smaller ears. Looks like he might be playing with an enrichment item right now, and those are basically just elephant toys. And we do fill those up with food sometimes, so that the elephants have to use their brain and their muscles in order to figure out how to reach inside and get the food. So we don't want to always make it super easy for them. We also want to make it a bit of a challenge sometimes for them to get the food. That's what they would have to do in the wild. And we do have 2.5 acres here for the elephants to move around. That's really important for their mental and physical health. And we did a test a while back where we attached a pedometer to the elephants' feet to see how much they were moving around. We found that they do move around a similar amount to their wild counterparts. That's exactly what we want for them. Now we can get a look at another elephant. And if you pay attention to the ears compared to the last one we saw, the ears are a little bit smaller, so this is an Asian elephant. She's using her trunk to grab that food and bring it up to her mouth. And when it comes to their trunk, they actually have more muscles in just their trunk than you have in your entire body. So they have a ton of really precise control over that trunk, like a fifth limb basically, that they can use to grasp and crush and whatever they want to do with it. And these big concrete structures that you're seeing that she is in the shade of, those are built strong enough to withstand the strength of the elephants, because in the wild they would kind of create a path of destruction as they walk around and knock down trees to eat the leaves off of them. That would not be safe here, so those things are built out of concrete to prevent them from doing that. Right after the elephants, we have the camels and the pronghorns. Pronghorns being the second fastest animal on land, second only to the cheetah. You can see a couple of camels over there walking around. And the camels and the pronghorns that they live with do get along fairly well. So you might see them snuggled up against each other with the pronghorn rooming beside the camel sometimes. Now coming up in this big netted habitat on our right side is one of the greatest success stories we have at the zoo when it comes to conservation. They are the California condors. So there used to be fewer California condors than there are people on the lower level of this bus. So they were not in a good place. They were at really great risk of extinction. See, one of them, both of them are up on that tree. And this was back in the 80s. There were only about 20 of them remaining in the wild. And seeing that they were in such a bad situation, we teamed up with some other organizations and we brought all of the remaining California condors in the world to the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, our sister park. And we gave them a safe place to stay and studied how they breed with each other and how we can help their chicks grow up big and strong. And the breeding program was a great success. There used to be only about 20 of them, and now there are more than 400 in the world, with more that have been released back into the wild than there are remaining in zoos. And as you can tell by their bald heads, they are a type of vulture, which means that they eat carrion, which is basically just a special type of, carrion is a word for dead animals. And they were getting into animals that had been killed by lead bullets and ended up with lead poisoning. Obviously not good for them. And so another part of how we help them, in addition to that breeding program, was by encouraging hunters to use different kinds of bullets that weren't going to have such a negative cascade effect on the ecosystem. I'll just be quiet for 1 minute so I don't scare the ambassador dog on the left side. Like I was talking about with the condors, that breeding program and encouraging hunters to use different kinds of bullets, it just goes to show that even if an animal is in really great risk of extinction, there are things that we can do if we team up with other organizations and have the support of people like you. There are things we can do to ultimately save those animals. And on the right side, we have the meerkats. They live in complex family units. There are about 10 of them here. So you might see them either digging in the dirt or standing up on their hind legs and watching for predators. So there are no natural predators do that here. They still do that behavior just to make absolutely sure that their family members are safe. And we are now going to pass by the backside of Africa rocks and see some of the habitat types in Africa rocks. One of them is the kopi, which is these big rocks on our right side. So a kopi is just when big rocks jut out of the savanna in Africa. That is where the rock hyrax lives, the one that we saw earlier that looks like a gopher or a beaver. That is a really important habitat type for a lot of different animals, because prey animals can get down between the rocks and hide, and predators can get up on top of the rocks and scope out their next prey. And we are going to be heading back through Africa rocks from a different angle a little bit later, but what we're seeing right now on the right side is the African garden. So all of these plants came from all over the African continent, and we like to encourage people to take inspiration from this garden for your own yards at home. So we all like a nicely manicured lawn, but that grass does require a lot of water to grow. That's not something we have an excess of in California. So by planting things like these that do well in San Diego's climate, you can reduce your water usage and also provide a better home for animals that are native to San Diego. Start peering through the trees on the right side. That's where the koalas live. But we are going to see them from a different angle as well, so you don't have to look too hard. And they do spend about 22 hours a day sleeping, so you probably won't see too much movement from them right now. And the koalas live over in the urban jungle, which is down that road to our right side. That's also where the giraffes and rhinos and zebras live. headed right now, but this is very close to where you will be dropped off at the end of this tour. So I definitely recommend checking out the urban jungle if you have time today. Instead, we are going to head down Center Street and see if we can find any bears. The first bear habitat we have is for the sloth bear. I know he likes to spend a lot of time towards the front of his habitat. It might be hard to see him wherever he is. But he is a bear, not a sloth. They have very long claws like a sloth. They use those claws to dig into the bark of trees and then get the termites out from inside to eat them. They also have the ability to open and close their nostrils at will.
I think he's under there.
Trying to eat termites and getting one stuck up your
I think
nose.
that's his skin that we're seeing, or
They
his
can
fur.
close up their nostrils to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, that was him under there. He was under that log. Oh, there's a person in this exhibit.
And you notice all this bamboo that's growing around this habitat on the right side. You probably know we used to have giant pandas here. They have now returned to China because thankfully they're no longer endangered. But we do still have red pandas who also eat bamboo. So we do harvest a lot of the bamboo here and feed it to the red pandas. And now on the right side is where the North American grizzly bears live.
The grizzly is back in the cave area. I can see his butt back there, but it's really hard for you guys to see.
Probably trying to stay cool. There are two grizzly bears that live here. They are brothers. They came from near Yellowstone National Park. To get a better view of this one on our right side now, is back towards the front right side habitat. Slowly go by. Like I mentioned, they came from near Yellowstone National Park. And their other species of that haven't taken them to trash cans and campsites. That's not a good source of nutrition for them. So we brought them here, and now they can be ambassadors for their species, so they don't have to rely on starvation anymore for food. And those are North American grizzly bears, but if you look on the California flag, you can see another bear. That is the California grizzly bear, which is another subspecies that unfortunately went extinct back in the 1920s. So we are working hard with all of the bears that we have here to ensure that no other bear goes extinct anytime soon. And the last bear habitat we have is for the Andean bear. You can see Turbo is on his little climbing structure, taking a nap right now. If you can see his face right now,
He is also under there.
his fur that looks like he's wearing glasses. So Andean bears are also known as the spectacled bear. And he's giving us a good example of how we try to design the habitats for the animals here. So Andean bears don't just climb trees like other bears, they live up in the trees and build nests. So that's what all that straw material is. That's a nest that Turbo has built for himself to sleep in. And Andean bears are the only species of bear currently native to South America. And if any of you know Paddington bear, he was from around Peru, which is right where these guys are from. So Paddington bear was also an Andean bear. And now we are going to pass by one of the oldest sections at the zoo, which is Fern Canyon. This is the second area we've seen that's modeled after a rainforest. And if it seems like we care a lot about rainforests here, that's because we do. Rainforests only cover about 6% of all the land mass on Earth, but they house about 50% of all land species, including plants and animals. So because rainforests have such a high level of biodiversity, that's a really important type of habitat for us to pay attention to and protect all the unique species that live there. So out of those 8 hubs of action around the world where we focus our global efforts, 4 of those 8 areas are different types of rainforests. And one way that you can help us protect the rainforest is next time you buy a bag of coffee, look for coffee that is shade grown. So that's coffee that's grown in the rainforest without having to clear away the existing trees. So you can get your coffee while leaving those trees behind to continue providing a habitat for the animals that live in the rainforest. Now we are going to be making a right turn over to Africa Rocks. See more of the habitat types there. But if we were to take a left turn here, that is how you could get to the Asian Passage. That's where the red pandas are that I mentioned that eat bamboo. That's also where you can find the Asian cats and how you can get to Eagle Trail and see all kinds of birds of prey. But like I mentioned, we are heading into Africa Rocks to see some more of the 6 different habitat types that we have here. The first of them that we'll see right now is the southern coast of South Africa. So keep your eyes on the left and you might be able to see the African penguins. Just like the polar bears, the penguins are another animal that seems like they wouldn't do that well in San Diego. But like I mentioned, these penguins are from the beaches of South Africa. They're one of the few species of penguin that enjoys a warm climate, so they're actually fairly well suited to living here in San Diego. These penguins are unfortunately endangered, and part of the reason for that is because of overfishing, where humans catch too many fish. The next time you're buying any kind of seafood, try to make sure that it is sustainably sourced. That way we can ensure that there are some fish left over for the penguins. I also definitely recommend checking out the penguin habitat on foot if you get the chance today. You can get a look at the penguins swimming underwater along with the leopard sharks that they share their habitat with. Now we're going to be passing by Madagascar, which is an island. And like many other islands, it's home to a lot of species that are found on that island and nowhere else on Earth. One of the unique species on Madagascar is the lemur. They are a different group of animals than the monkeys. There are 100 different species of lemur on Madagascar, and we have just 5 of them here. And because islands have so many unique species, they are very fragile ecosystems. Easily disturbed by invasive species that humans introduced to the island, including even cats and dogs. So that is one more habitat that we are working really hard to protect around the world, ensure that all the unique species that live on islands continue to live there for a long time. And this big metal structure that we're looking at that covers a lot of the monkeys and lemurs here is actually a Guinness World Record holder. So it is the largest hand-woven net structure of its kind, and it took 1.5 years to build. So that's just one example of the innovation that we have here to ensure the welfare of the animals that live here, and also allow you to see into their habitat and build a connection with them. Now coming up on the right side, you can see the koalas from a different angle. But like I mentioned, they do sleep about 22 hours a day. So it's probably getting a bit late in the day for them. They're going to be sleeping for a while.
I can see him there for the
Male
briefest
koalas
of
are fairly
seconds.
territorial. So each of the males here has his own tree and his own space so that he doesn't have to get stressed out about other koalas in his territory. Just like the lions, the koalas are crepuscular. They're most active during the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And part of the reason that koalas sleep so much is that they rely on eucalyptus for their food, which is not very calorie dense. And eucalyptus leaves are actually toxic. So if you were to try to eat them, it might not end very well. But the koalas have a special microbe in their gut that allows them to digest the eucalyptus leaves without being affected by the toxins. one more look at the African garden over on the left side. We actually have quite a few plants here that are only found in the wild and here. So there are no other botanical gardens that have those plants in captivity. And that way, if those plants ever experience trouble in the wild, we have a backup plan and we can help to reintroduce them into the wild. So we don't want to just address conservation challenges that are already happening. We also want to think about what could become an issue in the future and take preventative measures. We're going to pass by the urban jungle one more time. And again, that's where the koalas and giraffes and zebras and rhinos are. And that's also where kangaroo bus stop number 1 is. So a great way to plan your day after this tour would be to head over to the urban jungle. You can see all the animals that live there. And then hop onto the kangaroo bus. And it'll take you wherever else you want to go. And if you are heading over to the urban jungle, you would just take that pathway on our left side, on the other side of all these trees, and that would take you past the Tasmanian devils. They have been experiencing quite a bit of trouble in the wild recently, over the past 12 or so years, because of a contagious cancer that they infect each other with when they get in fights, which does happen pretty often in the wild. So 60% of them have been infected with that cancer. And we are studying the healthy ones that we have here so that we can try to find the best solution to protect the ones in the wild and ensure that they are around for years to come. And now we're getting close to the unloading dock. So I want to say thank you for taking this tour today and learning about the animals. Just by being here, you have supported us in our mission to save species worldwide and create a world where all life can thrive. And we are a non-profit organization. So the cost of your admission today and any food or drinks you buy and any donations you make are going to go directly back towards caring for the animals that live here, and also sending specialists and veterinarians and scientists all over the world to protect the wild counterparts of these animals.
In times past, they'd let you out over here. They let us out one dock over, but in times past, they'd let you out over here. Of course, this is where you can see they have photos so that you can see them as you're on your way out, and if you want to buy them, you can. Well, that was pretty fun. I have not done the bus tour in a crazy long time. I didn't realize it was 40 minutes, and they take you pretty much everywhere but around the urban jungle area. So that's actually a really relaxing, easy way to see most of the animals. If you're on the upper deck, you can see the tigers and the hippos probably a little bit better, but honestly I felt like visibility for a lot of things like the bears and that cheetah that was in that little nook was a lot better on the lower levels. So as cool as it is being up top, I actually think the lower level is the place to be personally. If you want to do the tour, I don't think there's a cost. Is there a cost, Amy? What did you talk to the ticketing lady?
I don't think so, because I think there used to be. Like, I think even we used to have, like, the reason we didn't do it was because the membership passes didn't used to include it. Because I remember, like, we only had
day tickets did. If you had a day ticket, it did, but not
members,
passes.
but now passes included.
Okay, so free bus tour, really long, really comfortable, enjoyable, and you get to see pretty much the whole zoo. It's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. Definitely check it out. And thanks for watching. As always, if you want to see more videos like this from the San Diego Zoo, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you again next time.